Hello, everybody. My name is Hastur, and today we'll be talking about biases, as you can tell by the giant word on the screen. Uh, Effectively, a bias is something that affects your judgment in an irrational way. Um, whether that be you had a food one time and you didn't like it because it was prepared bad, you'll never have it again. It was that bad. That is a bias. You don't like that food. Bias on its own isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, when you allow it to cloud your judgment and it prevents you from making a logical conclusion to information or a situation, it then becomes a not good thing. With all that being said, if you would like to follow along as I yap into the microphone, you can follow along at yourbias.is. That is the actual website, yourbias.is. No spaces. We'll be going over the first 12 biases, which there's 24, so there's going to be 2 videos. Sorry about that. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the first one, anchoring. Let me draw you a little anchor there. Bam. Anchoring. Basically, it is first impressions are the most important. It doesn't matter necessarily what comes after, but, your first impression will greatly affect your decision making. And to an extent, that is fair. If I see someone, robbing someone, or what I believe to be robbing someone, and then I see them later, trying to sell off whatever the heck they robbed, I can make an assumption that they're probably not a good person, considering that I saw them stealing beforehand. But I don't know, maybe it was that person was actually trying to steal it from them. They caught up, took it back, and then they sold it like they wanted to. Not necessarily likely, but anchoring is your first impression, setting what you believe further on down the line, right? That's why you dress nicely to a job interview. First impressions. That's why when you meet the parents, you shake their hand. You act respectfully. First impressions. Following anchoring, we have the sunk cost fallacy. Let me get you a new one. You have sunk cost. In for a penny, in for a pound. I would rather let my money burn than fix the problem. I.e., I can't let go, even if it costs me. That is the sunk cost fallacy. It is fairly self-explanatory. Following the sunk cost fallacy, we get into the availability heuristic. This one is I'm reading directly from the website, which you should definitely check out. Your judgments are influenced by what springs most easily to mind. Effectively, it is your first judgment, not necessarily an anchoring bias, but it is like the best way to put it is you are going to go with the first thing that comes to mind because you would rather do that than think more deeply about something, because you don't want to necessarily think that you're wrong. And this is just kind of human nature. Humans don't like to admit when they're wrong. 9 times out of 10 at least. So that is availability heuristic. You will go with the first thing that you think of, even if like you're not finished hearing everything. So, reading directly from the site, uh, their example is how recent emotionally powerful or unusual your memories are can make them seem more relevant. This in turn can cause you to apply them too readily. First thing that comes to mind, a prior judgment or making a judgment based on prior information, even if it's wrong. But what you believe to be true is what's true to you, even though it really shouldn't be. So let me I just realized I didn't do this. Availability heuristic. Wow. Shit, wrong button. Anyway, once again, prior memory, first judgment, you go with that. The curse of knowledge. Yes. This one, you'll see this a lot when you're like having a conversation with somebody. If you're having a debate, oftentimes you'll hear them say, "How do you not know this?" This is curse of knowledge. So here, let me. Curse of knowledge. Effectively, you know it, so you want to believe everyone else knows it. This is, people just do this. If you know that you do this, you can avoid it much more easily. But it's easy to assume other people know something that you already know. As they describe it on the website, once you understand something, you presume it to be obvious to everyone. It kind of like the I don't know if I can do a really good one. Let me there, turn on a mirror. Actually should move those closer together. There, what do you see? That's kind of curse of knowledge. Now, obviously, you can see that this is a face, but at first you can kind of see, oh, this looks like a table leg or something. And you see the face, and it's like, oh, now I can see the faces. And once you see it, you can probably still like force yourself to see the table leg again, but you'll always be able to see the face. Some people won't be able to unsee the face. That is curse of knowledge. Boom. And let me get rid of all that jazz. Bing, bam, bop. After curse of knowledge, we have oh, I don't know if you guys heard that. I bumped the mic. We have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is just as it sounds. The likes box is heavier than the dislikes box. Now, what does that mean? The stuff that I like, right here, the stuff that favors what I believe is more important than the stuff that doesn't confirm what I believe. And you'll see something similar to this in concept in a moment. But until we get to that, we will be following up confirmation bias with the Dunning-Kruger effect. Bam. Let me clear this up. For those who don't know, Dunning-Kruger effect. Let me actually write this out. The Dunning-Kruger effect. If you look at the Dunning-Kruger effect, you will likely see something like, imagine this is a graph. And there, instead of trying to write it sideways. So you have this graph right here. Effectively, the Dunning-Kruger effect looks something like this. This right here is the graphic representation of the Dunning-Kruger effect. All right. You have people who don't know much about a subject, people who know that they don't know much about a subject, and then people who know that they know about a subject. If my memory serves, the case that led up to this, there was a police case where a man tried to rob a bank. And he paid a street wizard $20 to make him invisible. And he could only be seen after he doused himself in lemon juice. And the police were flabbergasted. And the bank staff were flabbergasted. And Dunning and Kruger, two scientists, were flabbergasted that someone could be that dumb. You would be amazed on how stupid someone can be, especially when they don't know better. When you begin to understand something, like if you don't know something, a lot of people will think, oh, here, example. It can't be that hard. How hard could it be? How many times have you heard that? That is effectively Dunning-Kruger effect in action. Yeah. Oh, all you'd have to do is just, punch the guy in the face, block that punch, and it'd be easy when you're watching a boxing match. Or, oh, you shouldn't have thrown the ball to him. You should have thrown it to 32 downfield. He was completely wide open. Why didn't you throw to him? In football. That is Dunning-Kruger effect. You don't know necessarily what someone else does. You don't know everything that you can, so you're very confident. But then if you, begin to learn, you realize, oh, I'm an idiot. Afterwards, once you begin to know, you realize, oh, I'm less of an idiot. That is the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. Now, that being said, following the Dunning-Kruger effect, bam, is the belief bias. Basically, to describe belief bias, this is rationalization. If you watched my prior propaganda videos, you might recognize that term. It is quite literally, I found a conclusion that supports my existing beliefs, thus I will rationalize anything to support it. That is belief bias, as they describe it quite literally on the website. Like, if a conclusion supports your existing beliefs, you'll rationalize anything to support it. But following belief bias, we have self-serving. It is the name at first doesn't make sense, but effectively the self-serving bias is everything that you do right is your doing. You did it right. Yippee, I pat myself on the back. However, anything that goes wrong, well, the mechanic didn't tighten up my wheel properly, so I got a flat, even though that doesn't make sense. This guy ahead of me, he pulled off to the side of the road and there were cars coming. Now, stuff like that does affect you, but it's not the sole reason that something went wrong. You're rationalizing again, why something isn't your fault necessarily to yourself. However, you're rationalizing why your successes are yours. It is yippee for me, boo hoo for you, or boo hoo because of you. And that is the self serving bias. It is a self serving bias. But enough yapping about the self serving bias. Dogs are raising home. I don't know how well you can hear that on the mic. Sorry about that. Following that is the backfire effect. And this one is pretty straightforward. Backfired. The best way to put it is the generational crash out memes. If you've ever seen those, hold on, let me. I can explain it at least. Yeah, I won't pull one up because I don't have one immediately available. But someone pushes on you and challenges a core belief, and whoa, well, why are you challenging that? Huh? And by pushing back on that core belief, you dig in when you push back. Think of it like a doorstop. All right. You push the doorstop in, the doorstop, like the door pushes against the doorstop. And by pushing again, words are hard. I'm sorry. But as the door presses back against, here, let me. As the door tries to press into the doorstop skids against the ground and it stops it. And that is effectively the backfire effect. It is the doorstop of like belief biases. Yep. The more you press down into it, the more you want to dig in resistance. That is the backfire effect. And next up, we have the palm reader effect, also better known as the Barnum effect. Yes. So, Barnum. Here, let me draw my magic ball, and I'll read your fortune. My fortune says that you most likely woke up this morning, and you most likely went to sleep last night, and you most likely had breakfast at some point. That is the Barnum effect. I'm going to use large vagaries, and you will see personal specifics by filling in the gaps. Like, I see this person, this figure in the Magic 8 Ball. Oh, I'm seeing great emotion. And of course, these vagaries allow you to kind of attach to them. And by attaching to them, you are imprinting yourself onto the vagaries. They don't actually mean anything, but you're giving them meaning. That is the Barnum effect. Following the Barnum effect, we have Good old-fashioned groupthink. Yes, good old groupthink. In the wise words of a wise man, that looks terrible. There you are. I hope at least some people watching this are old enough to understand this. But groupthink. What does sheep think? Sheep think follow shepherd. Yes. Sheep follow the crook of the shepherd. Crook good because all the other sheep are following the crook. I might as well follow it too. In fact, groupthink is not too dissimilar to bandwagon appeal. If you happen to watch my section D of dissecting propaganda video, yes, you would recognize that. But groupthink is the less appealy version of that, but it is the internalized version of it, right? Because humans, being social creatures, don't like to be, well, don't always like to be the naysayer. They would rather be supportive. And by being supportive, they tend to think in groups. This is like tribal shenanigans, us versus them mentality can come from groupthink because, well, we're the good guys because they're the bad guys. That can come from groupthink because collectively people think, oh, something, someone, some group, somewhere is bad. And thus, because all of us think it, it must be true. That is groupthink. And finally, for this video, we'll be doing another video. We have negativity bias. Let me ask you a question, good gentle sirs. Is this cup? Let me specify. Is this cup half full or half empty? Well, negativity bias would tell you that this cup is half empty. Effectively, you are going to allow the negative things, i.e., the negative space of the cup, to disproportionately influence your thinking. You just can't do it. You'll fall, you'll hurt your leg. Don't do it. You'll shoot your eye out. You'll shoot your eye out. And didn't he actually, hang on, didn't he actually shoot his eye out? Did Ralphie shoot? Did Ralphie shoot his eye out? Oh, he almost. Oh, no, he does shoot his eye. Okay, well. Oh, hold on. No, he shoots his glasses. And then he steps on his glasses. Okay, that's kind of funny. I've never watched the entirety of the movie. But you'll shoot your eye out. Glass is only half full. Why drink? That's sort of it. It's not to be confused with pessimism, which is similar but different in the sense that pessimism is you overestimate the fact that it is likely, or you overestimate the thought that it will go wrong. Whereas negativity bias is I'm looking only at the negative aspects of something and thus making my decision on the negative aspects rather than the positive ones. Yes, it would be effectively, I'm going to get nauseous, so I'm not going to have kids. I'm going to get nauseous, so I'm not going to have cancer treatment. Stuff like that. Like you're being negative in order to avoid something. You are allowing the negativity to greatly influence your thinking rather than, looking at something as it is. I.e., if you're going to get cancer, you want to be able to treat it. Oh no, you get a little sick. I know it's bad, but kind of beats the alternative. But that is all 12 of the first of the biases. I am going to immediately be recording the following one, but I'm breaking this up so it's not all at once for your viewing displeasure. With that all being said, I am Hastur. If you liked this, be sure to go to yourbias.is, yourbias.is, no spaces, in order to look at all of their resources on your own. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another one of my videos. And if you liked this, feel free to comment. And I do see the comments. So if you have something to say, go ahead and say it. Just, try to keep it relatively civil. Please. And with that all being said, that'll be it. Later.